Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
And, oh boy, that didn't sound good. Hello. Sorry. Guess I haven't spoken out loud yet today. Usually, I think I talk to my dog. That sounded like, I don't know about you, but the first utterance of the morning can often sound like, right? Oh, well. Anyway, hello, because I can sound like that pretty much any time of the day. Last time I spoke to you, I was looking forward to a colonoscopy. Well, that's behind me now, and I'm awfully glad about that. But I have to tell you that while I was prepping at some ungodly hour Friday morning, I turned on, just to keep myself company, a show I haven't watched, I swear, since I did a cable show on PCNC, and then ran off to do a 3-hour radio show. This has to be back in the 90s or early 2000s. And I used to watch Morning Joe when I got up, because I did the cable at PCNC, which was an NBC affiliate, so I would get stuff from Morning Joe that I could then turn around and make fun of or use in some way or comment about. So I hadn't seen this show in so long, and I put it on, and it was, I don't know. First of all, the one thing I noticed, they had like 100 people on when I had it on, and everyone was a male except one. They were all men. And I'm thinking, guys, for God's sake. It was just one guy. And they were all white men except, what's his name, Michael Steele. Just ridiculous. I mean, I'm sorry. There's no excuse for it anymore. No excuse for it. And I got to tell you, as a woman, I'm not inclined to be drawn to listening to, a bunch of guys talking, feeling real comfortable talking to each other. So anyway, they were talking about something that so perplexed me, because I didn't know what they were talking about. And I pride myself on keeping up with the news. And they were talking about the latest outrage of the constantly outraged Republicans. And they were talking about the IRS. And I guess because I don't see the media much that Republicans see constantly, that I did not realize that they'd gone batshit crazy over a bill that had passed, long overdue, to give the IRS more money so it could hire a ton more auditors and other workers, because it has been starved for decades by the Republicans, who, as you know, don't like even the idea of taxes, because taxes support government, and they don't really believe in government either. So they've been very successful in bringing the IRS to its knees. Anyway, I was after the colonoscopy, I made a point of looking into what it was they were so upset about. And I thought, wow, I mean, I thought they were just off on the FBI. And now it's the FBI and the IRS and the conspiracy theories that just come immediately out of the woodwork and are immediately then spread, just multiplied over and over again by supposedly reputable office holders who happen to be Republicans. And so I looked at it and my God, let me find a quote here. Senator Chuck Grassley. I mean, he's been there forever, so he wasn't originally part of this new fascist Republican Party, but boy, he's in lockstep. Senator Chuck Grassley, Senate Finance Committee, darkly warned Fox News viewers that these new IRS agents might be coming with loaded AK-15s to their homes and ready to shoot some small business person in Iowa. That's a quote. That these guys, that Biden, that and the Democrats voted to hire, are armed and dangerous and coming to shoot. This is from Senator F. Grassley. Shoot some small business person in Iowa. I think, and then he goes on, I think they're going after middle class and small business people. Now, here's the thing. The bill is specifically not for small, it's to go after people who got money, lots of money. So they immediately deal in absolute falsehood. First of all, 99% of all IRS employees are not armed. And even the ones that aren't carrying AR-15s, AK-15. Who gives a damn what they're called? The fact is that the IRS now has 80,000 employees. Guess how many employees it had in 1970, ladies and gentlemen, over 50 years ago? 80,000. The IRS had 80,000 employees in 1970 when there were far fewer individual tax returns to be processed and looked at. And the Republicans have been just incessantly dogged, as they are, at making sure that the IRS was starved of the resources to take on tax cheats. But I had no idea. They're calling now the IRS an army. They're calling them on Trump's own network, this Truth Social thing. They're called the Gestapo, thugs. These are CPAs. They are so backlogged because they have outdated equipment. They have nowhere near the staff they need. They don't have time to shoot you. And the whole focus of this bill is not only to get them the kind of resources they need to do the actual job that is their mission, but the top priority is they are to focus on rich tax dodgers, corporate tax evasion. And all of these Republicans, knowing that what they're saying is just flat out a lie. No, this is how you whip up our base, who apparently a base that has to be agitated with a new outrage, a new fantasy of how they're being victimized and targeted by the government about every week, every day. You have this guy who's the top Republican on the House Ways and Means Committee. He knows what was in that bill. And he's out there telling people that families making less than $75,000 would be facing 700,000 additional audits because of this. It's an absolute lie, because the Biden administration has pledged that they are not going to increase audits on taxpayers who make less than $400,000. So, just the scary woman who wants to be the governor of Arizona, he wrote, "Not a single one of us is safe." They're weaponizing the IRS. Agents trained to kill Americans. This is your batshit crazy Republican Party 2022. Okay. I thought the FBI, since the FBI defund the FBI, now these are the law and order Republicans now are telling us that the FBI is a clear and present danger as well. So the IRS, the FBI, you understand, this is the autocrat playbook. You create, foment fear and distrust of every governmental entity you can, and any other institution you can. And you can check off what they've done. They're just going hog wild. Media, government, FBI, everybody, right? Everybody's out to get these poor folks. Now, I was still trying to digest that the FBI is now the great boogeyman of the Republican Party, because that is, you have to be brain dead to think that if the FBI was politicized, it would go after Republicans. The FBI is probably the most conservative institution in our government and always has been. There's a great piece written about the history of the FBI. Do you know, and I did not know this, there has never been anybody but a white Christian Republican leading the FBI. Seriously, every single director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation since its creation has been a card-carrying Republican. Everyone, including currently, who was appointed by Donald J. Trump, Christopher Wray. You want to know how conservative Christopher Wray is? He's a member of the Federalist Society. Those are the guys that pretty much handpicked this religious Supreme Court we have. Conservative, religious, white nationalist Supreme Court, right? You want to know how conservative this guy is, Christopher Wray, the current head of the FBI. The current head of the FBI that, yes, searched Mar-a-Lago. He's a member of the Federalist Society, and he's also a lawyer, and he clerked, guess for whom? He clerked for Michael Luttig, who is the revered Republican conservative judicial icon. So this is now. Imagine how far gone you have to be to buy the crap that Republicans are putting out now. That this, the FBI, the most culturally conservative, traditionally white, Christian male institution in the country, there's not been a Democratic president who had the nerve to nominate a Democrat to head it. It's that conservative an outfit. Hard to believe. Look it up. Unlike the other guys, I deal in fact. The irony of Republicans now seeing the FBI as an instrument of the communist Democrats gunning for the white nationalist conservative Republicans is so head spinning in this head spinning time that I think I actually had a little bit of a cervical injury. My head was going so. And it's true. The FBI in its history has gone above and beyond what it should. It has been politicized. And it has gone far afield. And has, in fact, engaged in illegal activity. But every time it did, it was targeting leftists or civil rights workers. They were targeting Dr. King. They were targeting anti-war protesters. They weren't ever targeting Republicans because they're Republicans. Three-quarters of the agents are still white. They're overwhelmingly male. The last three directors have tried to create a more diverse FBI. In fact, remember when Comey got yanked by Trump? He found out by looking. He looked up at a television screen, and he saw on the screen that he was being fired. You know where he was? He was at an event in Los Angeles where he was trying to recruit minorities for the FBI. They've never been more, the agents that are black have never represented more than 6% of all the agents. Anyway, so I mean, this is just, it's hard. The insanity is the scary thing to me. The clear craziness, the willingness to believe anything. And the fact that these lies and conspiracies are being peddled by supposedly responsible, reputable members of the Senate of the United States or the Congress. Mm-hmm. Jonathan writes, it's early, but I don't see how you're going to top my colonoscopy is behind me as the winning phrase of the show. Yeah, well, ye of little faith. Just hang there. You never know. Thank you, Jonathan. Yeah, Ed has sent me something from New York Magazine, and the headline says it all. For the MAGA right, democracy itself is a fraud. That's it. No, they are undemocratic in every way. They are not, and that's the problem. How do we continue? We're supposed to continue to pretend that things are normal, that we have a two-party system within this democratic system that we used to be so proud of. And one of those parties now is openly trying to undermine the system and doesn't even believe in the system anymore. And how do you move forward when the FBI is like one of the bad guys as far as the Republicans are concerned? Well, we're in really bizarre territory. And there's the question of how you cover as a reporter that. Because as somebody who has a degree in journalism, I was taught an ethic, drilled into you if you go to journalism school, about what the job of a journalist is. Now, I am not a journalist in my current iteration. I'm far too opinionated. But a journalist's job is to ferret out truth in as much as it is accessible, and to inform the public, and to put, and not just to spew facts, not just to be, not to, if you cover a press conference, you're not there to simply be a megaphone or a stenographer, as somebody put it. No, you're there to create context. You're there to educate. And so much reporting now, especially at the local level on television, is just letting whoever calls the press conference have free advertising. So-and-so said, and there's never any context. Is what they said true? Margaret Sullivan, who has written about media for the Washington Post forever, is retiring. And she wrote a piece trying to tell the folks still in the trenches, how they can navigate this time. But you can tell she's not sure. She's gratified that it seems media finally has figured out a little bit, and they are not just I mean, they actually, if Trump lies, much of the media now will say he lied. Because in the first 2-3 years of his administration, they wouldn't say it. They wouldn't say it because that would make them look like they were what? Being favoring Democrats by reporting that the Republican is lying. That because they've been taught not to put their finger, the thumb on the scale. To have this both sides, an equivalence of sorts. And it's impossible now when you have, as I said, a two-party system where one of the parties does not support the system. Then she says, and how do we get the news organizations to break free of their hidebound practices? And here they are. The love of political conflict, the addiction to elections as a horse race. And you're still seeing that. That's how all this is, that's exactly what they're doing, because that's what they've always done. When so much more is required. And Margaret Sullivan goes so far as to say, for the sake of democracy, they must stop. They've always done. He says journalists certainly should not shill for Trump's rivals, whoever they may be, but journalists have to be willing to show their readers or their viewers or their listeners that electing him again would be dangerous. And for a journalist, that is a tricky tightrope to walk. Excuse me. And she points out that, I'm sorry about this voice, don't know what happened. Excuse me. She points out the different ways that, in this case, the Associated Press and the New York Times covered a story where the loathsome Governor DeSantis of Florida held a press conference in which, here, I'll read the AP's coverage. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis announced criminal charges against 20 people for illegally voting in 2020, the first major public move from the Republicans' controversial new election police unit. Okay, that was the lead for the AP. She said she thinks that is irresponsible. Here's the New York Times. Governor Ron DeSantis said 17 people have been charged with casting illegal ballots in the 2020 election, in which 11.1 million Floridians voted. There is no evidence that election crimes are a serious problem in Florida or anywhere else in the United States. Okay? That, she says, is good reporting. Because DeSantis calls a press conference and says, we've arrested, I don't know why the numbers are different, 20 or 17 people who voted, to buttress there, it's all rigged, it's, there's all this fraud. The New York Times said this is what DeSantis said, but they arrested 20 and over 1 million voted. Not a big problem. Context. So she, I think, very nervous because she says, and even if the reality-based press does a perfect job with coverage focused nonstop on the truth, there will be no match for the duplicitous right-wing media, particularly Fox News, with its all-in audience and constant work on behalf of Trump and his allies. Tucker Carlson, Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity will do the heavy lifting. A candidate can't buy that kind of help. And if news people are not thinking hard about moving outside their usual practice of covering presidential campaigns, we're dead in the water. I hate to be such a bummer, but I do deal in reality. And so here's some more. I know you can take it. This is from Brian Kloss, who writes for The Atlantic and is also a professor at University College London. And here's a little bit of something he wrote. My studies and experiences have taught me that democracies can die in many ways. In the past, most ended in a quick death. Assassinations can snuff out democracy in a split second, coups in an hour or two, and revolutions in a day. But in the 21st century, most democracies die like a chronic but terminal patient. The system weakens as the disease spreads. The agony persists over years. Early intervention increases the rate of survival, but the longer the disease festers, the more that miracles become the only hope. I think that metaphor of a chronic terminal disease is about the right one. He offers us a slight, very thin thread of hope. He says we may not be doomed, but we should be honest. The optimistic assessment from experts who study authoritarianism globally is that the United States will most likely settle into a dysfunctional equilibrium that mirrors a deep democratic breakdown. It's not yet too late to avoid that, but the longer we wait, the more the cancer of authoritarianism will spread, and we don't have long before it's inoperable. Yeah. And that's the truth. I find myself collecting this stuff. I'm doing, because so much of what has been unleashed by this right-wing answer that we've got going has shown an incredible increase in anti-Semitism. I just see a lot of, I guess I call it Jews news. And, as a Jew, I may be more interested in it than some of you, but I just want to pass on three things that fit into Jews news, if you don't mind. First, and this blew me away, I'm going to talk about Oz, and I'm not meaning Doctor, that laughable idiot. I'm talking about Frank Oz. Do you know that name, Frank Oz? No relation. The idiotic doctor. Frank Oz is the puppet master who, of course, partnered with Jim Henson to create the Muppets. He's still alive. Mr. Henson is not. He's still alive. He's like 78. Yes. And he's more than just a puppeteer. He was the voice of Miss Piggy, the voice of Bert, Cookie Monster, and the voice of Yoda, I guess, in the Star Wars series. Anyway, he's just done a ton of stuff. So that's Frank Oz. And the reason I want to tell you about him is his name, Oz, is a shortened name. His name was Frank Osnowitz. And he is the child of Holocaust survivors. Or, I don't know, what constitutes a Holocaust survivor? I mean, his parents were never in a camp. They got out. They managed. I mean, when you hear about what they went through, good God in heaven. I mean, they took off in the dead of night and just became wandering Jews. They were in Belgium. That's where they lived. They got out of there and they went to they got to Portugal. And then where would they go from Portugal? They went to Casablanca. Just like, I don't think Humphrey Bogart was there at the time, but that's where desperate people ended up, desperately trying to get away from the Nazis. So Frank Oz's parents went from Portugal to North Africa, and his mom supported them doing, he was just a little guy, supported them doing tailoring work. And they managed to stay alive. Eventually, they end up, after the war, in California. So one day, little Frank Oz is rummaging through the attic in his family's house in California, and he comes upon a set of wooden marionettes. And one of them was clearly and unmistakably a mocking caricature of Adolf Hitler. And as a kid, Frank Oz didn't think much of these, but these puppets ended up in his home. And as he grew and became wiser, he all of a sudden realized their import. Because they had been carved, these puppets, by his dad in Belgium, under Hitler's nose. And when his parents fled, they didn't destroy marionettes, the Hitler marionette, which would have had them killed in a second. Just couldn't do it. His father buried them in the yard of their home, and then took off, and then became wandering Jews. Portugal, North Africa, Casablanca. And they survived the war. And the first thing his dad did is go back to the house. And he dug up his puppets. So Frank Oz comes by his puppet hearing. It's in the blood. And his dad never talked about the war, which destroyed his family, many of them. But Frank Oz now is putting his dad's puppets out. First time they've been seen in a special exhibition. Oz is for Osnowitz, Puppet Family's History. And it is at the Contemporary Jewish Museum in San Francisco. So I just wanted to bring you that because, I mean, this is something so, wow. First of all, I didn't know Frank Oz was Frank Osnowitz. I didn't know his dad also had been a puppeteer. And I didn't know that they had fled for their lives. Okay, that's number one on Jews News. Number two, back to Mar-a-Lago. The judge who signed the warrant, his name is Bruce Reinhardt. He is not a happy guy. He's probably a very anxious guy. Because the brown shirts, the Republican brown shirts, their thuggery has been on him since day one. And he's gotten so many threats that the synagogue he attends has had to cancel their services. So none of the Jews going to that synagogue were able to observe Shabbat because there have been so many. And the local authorities and the FBI consider these threats, and who wouldn't now, right? Not be pranks. So police in his neighborhood have intensified patrols. You can bet he's operating in a state of true anxiety and fear, which is the point, of course, of the thugs. And bringing it a little closer to home, my state representative is Dan Frankel. I know Dan, good guy. He is being targeted as well. And a lot of this is on Gab. You know, Mastriano's preferred site. And here's one of the, I'm just going to read what one of the Gab users said to Frankel. Well, one said he knows what happens to people like him once it happens. He's saying, we come for the Jews. That's what that guy's saying. And then another one on Gab said to Frankel, it's coming, kike. Hold on to your yarmulke. Yarmulke is the skull cap that Jews wear. So I wanted to share the Jews news with you because I suspect it will. And I'm sorry that it's really come to that. Oh, want to wish a shout out to Aaron, who's celebrating his 50th birthday today. He's in Niagara Falls, apparently. So happy birthday, Aaron. And Aaron had sent me, and what was the reason I know about his birthday, he had sent me this old thing from Pittsburgh City paper, which I remember and had blown me away at the time. I don't know why, because it was about the fact that most of the, well, this is 2010. It was 12 years ago. And Jeff Verzella, local meteorologist, I think he was at Channel 2 at the time. He was, I don't know, on Twitter, Facebook, whatever, but he was clearly poo-pooing global warming. Now, this is a meteorologist, so it just seems like people in that position should be a little more tuned in. Anyway, and I remember when I read that, I thought, oh, good God. Well, apparently he's back. I guess Channel 4 now has him. Can you imagine not believing in global warming? So what City Paper did is they went and called other local weather people and saw what they thought about global warming, and man, it was a little unsettling. Oh, God. I mean, they even went as far as, wait a minute, go away, get lost. Get lost. I'm sorry, talking to my very helpful computer here. The meteorologist up there in Erie said, I don't agree with man-made global warming. Mother Nature is too big an entity to be controlled by man and his efforts. Duly Bologna. I'm under the belief that the Earth goes through natural cycles every 20 to 30 years. I think global warming, that's more political than scientific. I'm skeptical that global warming is man-made. Just telling you. And I can see, I mean, on and on and on. The only one who had, is he even here anymore? Demetrius Ivory, 2010. So he's a meteorologist with CAE at the time. He said the right thing. To be honest, I have a degree in meteorology. I am not very qualified to discuss global warming. Climate scientists know so much more. I can tell you what the temperature is going to be for the next 5 days. I cannot tell you what the temperature of the Earth was 3 million years ago unless I Google it. I'm just trying to get through the next 7 days. When it comes to global warming, you have to let the experts fight it out. And that is the smartest reply of all, because everybody else either equivocated or poo-pooed it. God. But it is true. They're dealing with a totally different thing. Day-to-day weather is not the same as a climatologist and a meteorologist have totally different skill sets and perspectives. Oh, here's this thing. I just love this. Here is, you know, the tough guy from around here who's in custody now because he was going to shoot up and kill every FBI guy he could find. Guy's in Mercer County. Well, I guess he is still, but he's in jail. He was on Gab and doing what they do on Gab, which is threaten Jews, threaten office holders, threaten FBI agents just trying to do their job. Adam buys. So he actually, here's what he puts out on Gab. I'm ready for the inevitable. He figured he was going to die. He was going to shoot up as many FBI people and he was going to die. So he says, I'm ready for the inevitable. My only goal is to kill more of them before I drop. I'll not spend 1 second of my life in their custody. What a bunch of blowhard cowards. So they came to his house. And not a shot was fired, of course. The FBI came to his house. He didn't take one of them out. He had guns in the house. No, he went meekly. Now, I suspect that most of these lunatics are like this guy. They're all worked up. They're loving, feeling warriors. They're armed to the teeth. They talk big. But when push comes to shove, they fold. And I suspect that he is representative of more of them. It doesn't make him, in many ways, it does not make him less dangerous, because the way, the Nazis were able to pull off what they pulled off is that it didn't require that many people to act. It just required them to shut up, look the other way, go along. So that's all that's really required. Speaking of guns, what is this bizarro story about some weirdos living off the grid in the forests of Georgia or something? I don't know. Are they in Georgia or are they in Florida? I don't know. This is that story about the poor guy who saw a woman in distress and stopped his car. He and his girlfriend stopped their car to help her out. She had flagged them down. And so they stop, and then she pulls a gun, the woman in distress, and tells him to walk into the woods where some other woman is waiting, also apparently armed. And guess what? This is Florida. So the guy, the Good Samaritan guy who stopped, he's got a gun too, it turns out. So he pulled out his gun. So we got 4 people here, 3 women, 1 guy, and we got at least 3 guns. And the woman who it was in distress, and the guy start shooting at each other, and both are hit. She wounded, he killed. He's screaming for the other woman to help her. The other woman runs, her accomplice. The girlfriend manages to get the cops on the scene. The cops then go looking for the camp of where the woman in distress was from, and the other woman ran back to. And lo and behold, it was about a half a mile away. And they see the other woman. They order her. She's armed, but they order her. She folds. She goes down. But then her 5-year-old son comes charging out of the woods, holding a loaded shotgun. This is just a little story of America. A young couple is riding in their car, and this is what happened. And a 5-year-old child, armed, comes running out of the woods. It was the woman's son. God, he didn't shoot. Anyway, a story I can't even. Reality's something else, huh? Reality is something else. Okay, what else I got here? Oh, God. No, I can't. And we're almost out of time. I can't. It's about Daryl Metcalf. Did you see the thing in the Post-Gazette today? The feds have like $500 to $750 million that they want to give Pennsylvania. A whole hunk of that coming this way to shore up our crumbling infrastructure. And Daryl Metcalf, Republican of Crazyville, that'd be Cranberry. Way to go, guys. You keep sending him back. He's doing wonders for the Commonwealth. Is single-handedly right now preventing that money from getting to us. I won't go into detail. It is insane. It is insane. They're insane. They don't want. They are in government to destroy government. They have no platform other than destruction. And fomenting fear. It's really mind-blowing. All right, I'll leave you with my favorite quote that I came across today. This guy's a biologist, so he's got some standing to say what I'm about to share with you. His name, by the way, is Justin Gregg, and he says this: depending on where we go from here, human intelligence may just be the stupidest thing that has ever happened. Yep. Okay, that's it for me. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Okay? Bye-bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.